Griffin the Griffin by BlackWing. Chapter 88. Negotiation. Still Gilda's point of view.
Marble pillars. Just look at it. Hard to believe they made something this gorgeous. The aptly named Warren had a multitude of columns that were placed in a style Griff said was Greco-Romanish when he looked out the window from his bed. It seems that while most of them avoided the artistic, these hounds were the exception to the rule. It was set in a green valley, turned brown by fallen leaves, with little creeks and streams running through it, and a very thin layer of frost covering everything, as it was nearing winter. We didn't know anything about this den, and couldn't tell too much in the dark of the night, other than it's heavily defended if the multitude of ballistas that sat on the walls and pillars were anything to go by, and were packed with everything from harpoons with reels for pulling airborne threats down, to massive bundles of arrows that would split apart when fired for what Griff called a shotgun effect. This was one den that we would not want to tangle with using mobile forces. Even with armor, they'd be ripped apart by the sheer force of the assault. So, what do you think we should do?
You're the captain, Gilda.
And while you're in that bed, you're the tactical advisor. Give me my options.
Alright. Option 1 is we fly out and attack them head on, and we all die horrible deaths by their artillery.
Clearly not picking that one.
2, we leave them alone.
We came all the way here. That's a no-go either.
Sneak in and assassinate the leaders.
Possible, although they look like they have a pretty tough security.
Attack them from the ship, destroy their defenses, and try to meet them.
That's good.
They're clearly not standard dogs if they have weapons and artillery that require advanced design. Negotiate. Reason with them. Failing that, we can still attack.
I think we'll go with that one. How do we go about doing it?
Drop the ship down below the cloud and shout greetings?
Would that work?
We can try. The spell is sonar, by the way.
I stood on the deck as the ship dropped out of the night clouds, and from my perch I could see a swarm of activity within the city. Dogs getting armored, loading the weapons, and a trio of dragons coming out from within. The strangest thing was, the flying serpents were not in chains. In fact, I saw a couple of griffins and ponies down there walking around freely. What the hell? Etch, Growl, Nadine, Tyrus, Trixie, hell, everyone! What do you make of that?
Seems to me like they aren't unicorns,
the unicorn stated. Peaceful? The smaller dog pondered as he tilted his head to the side.
Well armed,
the larger added.
Protects self and does not attack.
Tyrus, on the gun. Use a spotlight and shine it on that building there in the center of the city. He did as I asked, and upon the light reaching the pavilion-like structure, I spotted 3 dogs standing tall, all wearing different colored armors, each one matching the scales of one of the dragons. They also held spears in their paws and wore golden circlets. They stood taller than all the others, obviously alphas, and were flanked by several in full steel, clearly betas. Donning my own rainbow armor and my bow, I turned to face the city below and concentrated on the gems set into the bow's grip. Sonar. Greetings! Well, let's see if that worked. After a few minutes, the trio of large dogs climbed atop the dragons that matched their armor colors, who then flew up to the ship and surrounded it. All the warriors on board seemed on edge, and the cannons were let out to face the possible threat, as we all threw protective spells on ourselves.
You are not Captain Griffin,
the one on the yellow stated. He's currently indisposed, and by his authority I am commanding the ship.
And who are we talking to?
The one on the red asked. Captain Gilda of the Griffin Pirates. We will not tolerate any raiding here. Leave. The one on the blue, a female, added. Female alpha? That's unusual. Actually, we have a few questions we would like answered.
And why would we entertain such a conversation?
The blue dragon asked. This is getting us nowhere. I'm not sure what to do here. Griff was always the one with the silver tongue.
No reason at all,
came a voice from the window. The captain's, of course.
Do you need a reason for idle chatter?
Who is there?
Griffin.
Ah, the legendary pirate captain who has been laying waste to slaver troops. Why do you not present yourself? Do you perhaps fear us and hide behind your crew?
Actually, I'd love to come out and say hi. Just give me a minute.
After not a minute, but 10, he finally appeared at the stairs, struggling to get up. Our guests didn't seem to mind the wait, although the looks on their faces when they saw the state he was in was surprising to say the least.
What in the... How did...
The Dragon Bane was defeated?
What is the meaning of this? All 6, the 3 dogs and their rides, asked as one.
This is the end result of kindness.
Why have you come to this place?
To negotiate.
How? In your injured state, you pose no threat to us.
My crew is more than enough. And who said anything about threats? You all seem like reasonable canines. Perhaps it would be to mutual benefit?
Explain.
Gladly, but first maybe you'd like to come in so we can discuss it over dinner?
And risk you poisoning us, being surrounded by your crew, on your own terrain?
Then perhaps some neutral ground, the field outside the city. Being as many guards as you like, and each side will eat what they brought, so there's no risk of betrayal.
Trixie spoke up. Good thing she pays attention to Griff's rants. I really ought to, but I just don't have a mind for negotiation, if my time in Ponyville is any indication.
Very well. 1 hour.
Griffin, what the hell are you doing out of bed?
Nadine started shouting. In case you haven't forgotten, you're still recovering.
Hey, it's not like moving will hurt me. Well, okay, actually, it might hurt, but it won't cause any damage as long as I don't overdo it. I need some fresh air anyways. And something about these dogs tells me they're going to be reasonable. For one, as far as I can tell, they don't have slaves. For two, they didn't just up and attack us. Let's try, okay? I'll have Starlight come with me and make us intangible in case anything goes wrong.
How do you plan on getting down? If we land, the ship could get swarmed.
Form of verses, that's how.
He suddenly switched to human again. Looking into his empty eyes was unnerving, but at least he's making use of his downtime. The damage to his human body isn't bad at all. Other than the eyes, so it's pretty viable. He put on a pair of sunglasses anyway, so as not to weird everybody out. He reached out with one hand and rubbed it along my neck feathers, bringing a blush to my face before he stepped in close. I lowered myself to the ground and lifted him up with my wings, to settle him on my back, which made me feel even more flustered. It's just a ride. We're flying down to talk with some dogs, that's all we're doing. He's on my back and... Oh, he just rubbed my shoulders. This is gonna be harder than I thought. Damn it, I bet you planned this.
I see you have all arrived, except for the captain.
The one in yellow pointed out.
I'm right here.
You are not Griffin.
Yes, I am. I forgot to mention I'm a shapeshifter. Anyway, that body was too beat up to let off the ship, so I changed my form. Unfortunately, this one's got its eyes torn out, so meeting you all here will be an exercise in blind trust for me.
Nobody laughed at the possibly unintended pun.
I do hope you won't take advantage of my good faith.
I helped guide him to a chair we had placed next to a large table. I sat to his left with Shimmer and mine, followed by Edge. On his right was Wisp, in case he needed to go intangible, and to her right was Nadine, Maria, and Growl. Across from us were the 3 alphas, and 6 betas, 2 for each, standing behind them as guards. Maria brought out the food as we all slowly picked at it, Griffin being very careful not to spill as he blindly maneuvered his fork and knife to cut a slab of venison. The voice is the same, but the form is different, and not anything I recognize. Peculiar. Now what is the reason for you being here? The female alpha, who actually seemed to be the leader among the 3 as well as the most untrusting, asked before putting a couple emeralds into her mouth.
As you know, we're waging a war on slavery, hunting down any who take others away from their loved ones and force them to work against their will. We've noticed the city seems a lot more refined than the others we've seen, and also that there were dragons, griffins, and ponies walking around inside the city walls, not bound in any way.
That is because we have no need for slaves. Why spend all those resources capturing slaves who don't want to work, then guarding them and then trying to keep them alive? All to do a job that we are more effective at doing ourselves. I would say it was lazy, except that it takes far more effort to do it that way. The dragons, Rivyak, Toulouche, and Maran, were orphaned 500 years ago, and by the wisdom of our ancestors were taken in and treated as family. In return, they protect Marble Pillars and its people. The griffins you see came here after the fall of the domain, looking for a better life, and the ponies are the descendants of escaped slaves who had nothing to return to in Equestria. The Griffins change the weather as we need it, using snow from the mountaintops. And the Earth ponies farm the land, keeping it vibrant and full of life, especially fertile after it's tilled by diamond dog miners. We have a good system, in which we are all happy. Why have you come to disturb this?
Explained the one in yellow, who seemed to be the most reasonable. We're not here to disturb at all, I pointed out. The fact is, you do not practice or allow slavery within your walls, so we have no quarrel with you. They all seemed to ponder that for a moment, quite confused.
It seems there has been a misunderstanding. Did you not declare war on Diamond Dogs and Ruby Hollow? The day of reckoning has come. Those who follow shall find prosperity, and those who resist shall be swept away by the tides of change. So says Griffin the Cursed, captain of the Griffin Pirates, chief of the White Wind, kin of the Silent Wolf, and bane of dragons. Those are your words, are they not?
Griff sat there with a blank look before face-palming so loud that everyone, even the dragons, were a little bit startled. There was a visible red mark on his forehead when he took his hand away. Of course, all they did was relay the message and not give any context. Why did I expect any different?
What are you talking about?
The falling in line and experiencing prosperity means stopping the slave trade, stop murdering the innocents and feeding them to dragons. When I said those who follow, I meant follow my example, not hand over leadership. Those being swept away by the tides of change is the ways of slavery. His explanation brought a trio of face paws from the alphas.
Stonefang always was a moron, and a weakling at that, besides being a foolish old coot.
Given the fact that they knew what our mission was, yet decided to only give some of the facts, it seems as though he's hoping to twist what was said to make it seem like our goal was a genocide. Wouldn't be too hard to believe. Bunch of griffins going around slaughtering diamond dogs just because they can. So far, this is the first time we've had to deal with opposing propaganda.
Well, perhaps they are right, or perhaps we are mistaken. That is yet to be seen. So now you know of our history, what will you do?
They seemed confident. They knew they had us, their guns on the ridge trained on us, 3 alphas in dragon scale armor, harvested from the sheds of the 3 dragons they rode, and a dozen other warriors. They knew if things turned out badly, they had us, which is why they had no fear at all in this conversation. Since you operate within ethical bounds, we'd be content to leave you be, should you desire. Other than that, by the fact that you have such extensive defenses, and by the speed and efficiency you were able to mobilize, it's safe to say you have had to deal with the invasion often?
You would be correct in that assumption.
Diamond Dogs refuse to be led by any other than their own, or a kin, one who has proven themselves. As such, when we defeat Warrens, would it be reasonable to direct them to your leadership, that you can get them on the right path?
That would be fortuitous and appreciated. In return,
Marble Pillars would act as a safe haven within enemy territory, as well as a closer gathering point than Canterlot for those we liberate. Besides that, open trade with Equestria to the south, bringing prosperity to both, and expansion of your hold, as well as relations with our own nation, spread out along the Isles of the Ring Sea, in conjugation with the zebras. Given how spread out we're going to be once we get set up, it basically means trade access with the entire rest of the known world. The cats of the jungle, with their valuable herbs and such. The isles with their rich bounty of food, both fruit, fish, and other meats. Zebrican potions and ivory from the hierophants they have roaming their lands. Equestrian gem deposits, as well as access to the rest of Gem Fido and the Old Dominion. Their eyes comically turned into gemstones at that explanation, before turning back to normal, and the dogs cleared their throats. They know quite well how important having open trade is. At least we've got their attention.
so in return for this, all you ask is we continue the way we have done for the past 600 years,
and expand our empire, which means more profit for us, which you'll assist us in doing, followed by open and fair trade with the rest of the world, which you'll also spearhead? Essentially, yes. They turned and began whispering to each other, although I could make out some of it as, "Is he serious?" and "Fool not to do it," and followed by "Test." Nods of agreement, and then turning back to us.
very well. If you are serious and are truly capable, then we have a test to determine if you are a griffin of your words. To the northeast of here is Clay Power. They have been a thorn in our side for far too long, with their near-constant raids, and then disappearing before we can retaliate. Any offenses we make are useless, as they merely hide in their iron fortress, under a hill of clay baked by their captive dragon. Put an end to their alpha and convince our long-hated foes to join us, and we will have a deal.
Actually, this works out quite well. We were headed there anyway, and you just gave us valuable information. You have our thanks, so perhaps we should offer you some information in return. There are two others we know of who have begun assailing Gem Fido as well. One is a heterochromatic, silver-furred wolf swordsman who cries blood, believed to be the lunar legend. He's quite reasonable as long as you don't bring up his past. If you see him, tell him you already talked to Griffin and have an accord. The other...
His face contorted with a look of rage and pain.
The other is a black dragon named Ember. She's about 1.5 my height in this form, but holds the power of several dragons. She has a horrible temper and suffers from multiple personality disorder. She is the one who tore off my wing and crushed my ribs as a griffin, and ripped out my eyes as I am now. She is not to be trifled with, and may very well slaughter this hold if you do so much as to mention my name. Pray to whoever Diamond Dogs pray to that she doesn't come here, and if she does, you don't know me. 2, don't ask her any personal questions. 3, you already deal with Equestria and are under the princess's protection. That last one is not a lie, as I'm considered a knight of Equestria. I'll inform them right away of your status.
The three of them gulped when Griff explained the situation, and then nodded again.
That information is quite valuable. Thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing you again, but be warned. Do not double-cross us.
So long as you show the same consideration, I have a feeling we'll get along just fine.
With that, we all stood, shook on it, and then headed back to our respective homes. As Griff rode on my back again, I felt that heat again and a tension in my stomach. Damn, he's not making this easy on me. Especially with his smooth skin and hands rubbing against my back as I flew home.
Say, Gilda.
He started when we got on board. Yeah, Griff?
I could tell you were pretty antsy down there. What's up?
You don't know?
No.
I'm in heat, damn it. Not only does your smell drive me bonkers, but with your hands and smooth skin rubbing on me that whole time, it's making me crazy. He backed away slightly, then tripped and fell on his ass right on the deck. Right, he's blind, so he's completely defenseless, and I'm raging out on hormones.
Well, I admire the fact that you haven't been having Trixie and Nadine help you like you said you would. And I know because I talked to them about it. You shouldn't torture yourself.
But it's not them I love, damn it. It's you! A tear came to my eye. Do you think so little of me that you couldn't even get jealous? He choked at that point, and I heard another slap of his hand hitting his head.
Why didn't you tell me you felt that way? Of course I'd be jealous, I'd be furious. But at the same time, it's because I trust you and I love you above all else that I can forgive anything you do while in your altered state of mind.
Suddenly, I got a wonderfully devious idea. Forgive me for anything, eh? Say, your human ribs got fixed a long time ago. Other than being blind, you're unharmed.
Griffin's point of view.
Forgive me for anything, eh? Say, your human ribs got fixed a long time ago. Other than being blind, you're unharmed.
As soon as she said that, I pretty much knew what was going to happen. I suddenly felt her claws around my arms as she pinned me to the deck, and shouted for everyone else to get out of her way as she clutched me to her chest and flew onto the ship. Now, being blind is one thing, but being kidnapped and flying while blind is another thing altogether. My heart raced as I was filled with fear, and a little exhilaration, and a lot of lust from being pushed so close to her, feeling the warmth of her body gave off, and the smell of her hormones still hung in the air, driving me a little crazy. Needless to say, Gilda was a lot more relaxed the next morning, as I, still on my unclothed human form, was clutched close to her chest as she slept. Well, better get back to my hospital bed and get feathered again so I can heal up. You gonna be alright? I asked as I struggled to get dressed.
Yeah, At least I don't have to worry about going crazy anymore. Here, let me help you with that.
Her breathing became a bit labored as she helped me put on my clothes. You alright?
Yes!
She squeaked a little.
I'm alright.
Gilda's point of view.
Oh, come on! Wait, don't tell me he doesn't know about that. How can he not know? Did I not tell him? Putting clothing on, especially pants. Oh, I just want to rip them back off and drag him back to bed. No. Gilda, control yourself. I have a job to do. Just help him back to the medical bay and get him turned into a griffin again. Dear Princess Celestia, we found a diamond dog warden that does not participate in slave trade and are quite refined as well. We managed to make a deal with them to help in taking over Gem Fido, and with their leadership, things will turn out better for everybody. This is a major step in opening free trade, freeing the slaves, and bringing a brighter future to everyone. As a Knight of Equestria, Griff offered Marble Pillars partnership with and thereby the protection of Equestria. How you intend to go about this is your own decision. Once the new Dominion is set up, we have plans of a partnership with them as well. But for the meantime, we'll use the location as a way station for freed slaves, trade, and supplies. So that leaves only one thing left. Why is it that putting clothes on is seen as erotic? Shouldn't taking them off be more arousing? Sincerely, Gilda.